Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello everyone, welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Today we're going to make this pretty little notelet set, but instead of using the papers which I have used here, which were from the Love from Lizzie August 2020 card kit, I'm going to use papers from the Paper Boutique. These are called Happy Days, and I love the little die cut toppers and papers in these kits. So we're going to make the envelope holder, we're going to make the notelet holder, we're going to make the little tag holder, and this is how it is inside. So we have a little pocket and holder here for these. So there's lots of YouTube tutorials. This is just my version of it. So let's get on and get everything. So we have our piece of card which measures 10 by 6, and on the 10-inch side we're scoring at 4, 5, 9 and 9.5. Then I'm going to rotate it to the left, and I'm going to score it at 4 and at 4.5. Then I'm going to rotate it again to the left, and I'm going to score it at 5.5 down to the first score line. And that is our main notelet, and this is what's going to hold the note card. The next thing that we're going to need is the envelope pocket or holder part. So again, I have everything here. So we're going to need a piece of card measuring 6 inches by 3 3/4, and on the long side, the 6-inch side, we're going to score it at 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 5 1/4 and 5.5. Then we're going to rotate our card face again, and we're going to score at 3 the whole way down and at 3 1/4 the whole way down. And again, we'll be doing some cutting on this, but we'll get to that in a minute. Next, I have the little tag holder pocket, and this little piece of card measures 3 3/4 by 2 3/4, and on the long side we're going to score it at 1/4, at 1/2, at 3 1/4 and 3.5. Then we're going to rotate it. We're going to score at 2 1/4 and 2.5, and that's that piece. Then we need a piece of card for our tag pocket, and this piece measures 3 3/4 by 3 inches. For our tags, you will need 5 pieces of cardstock measuring 2 inches by 4 inches, and a little piece of pattern paper 2 inches by 1.5 inches. I will stick this on the top, and then I will take my punch, and I happen to have a Stampin' Up punch, and I will use this punch then to stamp out my little tag. And these are how they look when they're done. So next then we need our piece of card or paper for our envelopes, and we're going to need 5 of these, and these measure 7 by 7. And I'm using the We Are Memory Keepers punch board, and on that it gives you the directions of the size of paper you need for your card. So we'll make that as well. Then we need all our pieces for our cards. So we're going to need 5 pieces of card, and this measures 8 by 4, and I've scored it at 4, and that'll give us our 4 by 4 card bases. And I have 5 of these here, and I happen to be using 300 GSM card for these cards. For the front of my notelet pocket, I'm using a piece of card measuring 3 3/4 square. I have one of the little pop-out die-cut toppers from the Happy Days paper pack, sorry about that. The dogs are outside and it's such a lovely day here. There's loads of people, well, not loads, but there's people walking up and down, so they're barking at them. So I do apologize in advance. You're going to hear some barking because I'm not doing a voiceover for this part. I'm recording it live and I'm keeping my voice part in, so I do apologize. So this piece is going to go on the front of our little notelet, like this one here. I'm going to use this piece. So then for all of our little cards, we're going to need some matte layers, and I have 5 pieces here. I have 2 in green and 3 in the brown card, and these pieces measure 3 3/4 square. Then on top of those, I'm going to put a piece of pattern paper measuring 3.5 inches square, and that'll sit on the front of my card base like so. Then onto that, I have used a punch to punch out a 2 1/4 inch die cut circle and a 1 3/4. Is that right? No, it's not. This piece is 2 1/4 and this piece is 2 inches. But you can die cut out whatever you want to put on the front of your actual card. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to stamp a little sentiment on the front, and that'll be the front of each of the cards inside. So you need 5 of each. You need 5 of your matte layers, 5 of your pattern papers, and 5 2 1/4 inch die cut circles in your matte color, and 5 in your white for your sentiments. Then to embellish the notelet holder itself, you'll need a piece of card measuring 4 1/4 by 2 3/4, and onto that I'm going to put a piece of pattern paper measuring 4 by 2.5. You'll also need a piece of card measuring 3.5 by 2 3/4, pattern piece of paper measuring 3 1/4 by 2.5. We'll need a piece of card measuring 2.5 by 2 and some pattern paper measuring 2 1/4 by 1 3/4. We'll need a piece of card measuring 3 3/4 by 1 1/4, a piece of patterned paper measuring 3.5 by 1 inch, and then finally we'll need a piece of card measuring 3 3/4 by 3/4 inch, and a piece of patterned paper measuring 3.5 by 1/2 inch. So those are all of the cards and pattern papers and matte layers that we're going to need for our notelet. The last thing, a piece of ribbon, and this is just to tie the whole thing closed. I have a new little roll of ribbon here in a brown. I haven't measured how much of this I'm going to cut off, but when I do cut it off, you can just do it to measure yourself, but I'll give you a measurement of that once we get further into making of it. So let's go ahead now and assemble everything together. So now we need to cut. So let's do some cuts. So now I want to having the 2 score lines up here at the top, and then we have a 4-inch panel and a 4-inch panel. This is the orientation you need to have it in. So I'm going to cut the first score line all the way up to here, which is the 2nd score line horizontally. So I've just got a bit of sticky on my scissors. So we're cutting right up to the 2nd score line, and then we're going to do that again. So we have that done. We have a little one and a bigger one here. I'm going to cut off, so we have 3 score lines here. I'm going to cut off here. And that's that one off. Then I'm going to cut off the next one. That's that one off. And now I want to cut off this little tab. You can leave this tab inside if you want, but I just find the bulk of it actually, it doesn't work great when you put the cards in, but I'm going to leave that and take that off in a minute. First of all, I want to cut these. So we're going to, having these 2 long, if you look at it now, we have the long 10-inch line and we have a score line here and here at the end. I want to take off this piece here. So I'm going to cut straight down. Past the first one and down to the second one. And then cut this piece off here. Now I'm going to cut this piece off, and you can chop this off however you find is best for you, but just do that. I'll take my fine little nippers and nip out that score line. So this is what you should have left. So we have a 4-inch panel, and then we have our inch, and this is going to be our notelet holder. So we're just going to bring this up here and here, and we're literally, all we're doing is burnishing all our score lines. So now if you look, these 2 pieces here is what's going to attach on to our base, just like that. It'll sit in there and attach. Now you can see there's a gap. That gap is because we want to put our little tag holder. That's going to sit in there. So what we'll need to do is we need to put some adhesive tape or some glue or whatever you want to use just on these 2 panels here and bring that up. Just like that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put together the part that's going to hold our envelope and that's going to hold our tags, and put that all together. So let's do that next. Okay, so this is the envelope holder part, and it's going to sit on the back of the notelets, and we need to cut the bottom right and bottom left hand corner off, and these are the ones that have the score lines going through them, and we're literally cutting off the whole corner. So there's 2 score lines going through that corner, and we're going to cut those off. There's one, and that's the second corner. So we'll have a flap that'll come up to the inside and a flap on each side. Now I'm just taking a little wedge off the sides there, each corner. It just means that when I stick it down onto our notelet set, it sits better. So we'll burnish those score lines, 2 on each side, and then the 2 at the bottom. Lovely. With that done, then what we need to do is put some tape onto the sides. So you need to put tape on the outermost part of each side. So you can use some glue or double-sided tape, whichever you feel is going to work best for you. I'm going to use double-sided tape. Now you'll see when you put this envelope holder on, it actually is bigger than our notelet holder, so you're going to have a little bit on each side, so you want to make sure that you make allowance for that when you're putting your glue or tape on. So this little part here is going to hold our tags, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to cut off the corner on the right hand side, the bottom right hand side, and the bottom left hand side, just like that. And again, I'm going to take a little wedge off each of these that we've cut down on those 4 corners. So just a little wedge off each side. And this is just off where we're going to be putting our double-sided tape. Again, I'm going to burnish those score lines. And like I said, you can either use glue or double-sided tape. I have I'm using red liner double-sided tape. Is what I'm going to use to stick them down. Perfect. So I'm going to put my double-sided tape on now, and I'm going to speed this part up because we don't want the video to be too long. Okay, so let's now attach this onto our notelet holder. So when you put this down, you'll see that the envelope holder part is bigger than our notelet holder. That's because our notelets are 4x4, but when you make a 4x4 envelope, it actually works out bigger than 4x4. And I didn't realize this initially when I was making it, but I have to say, I do like the look of this on. So when you put your envelope holder against your notelet holder, you'll see that there's a little bit on either side. So make sure when you put your adhesive tape or your glue or whatever you're using, you don't put it across the whole way, just behind where it's going to sit on the notelet holder. So I'm using my bone folder inside, and that's just allowing me to put some pressure on the double-sided tape because there's nothing behind the notelet. So by putting it in there, I can then press down on the tape and be sure that that's going to stick onto the card. Okay, so I've sped everything back up again. Now we're going to start sticking down our patterned pieces and our matte layers onto our card. So I have a brown piece of card here, and it measures 4 1/4 by 2 3/4, and onto that we've put on our piece of pattern paper, which measures 4 inches by 2 1/2, and this is going to sit on the front of our envelope holder. Now before you stick this down, don't do as I do as I say. Put your ribbon on. Put the ribbon on here and then stick that matte and patterned paper over that. I didn't do it, so I have to go back, peel the card off, tuck my ribbon in, and then fire on from there. Okay, so this piece that we have here, this is going on our tag pocket, and the brown piece measures 3 1/2 by 2 3/4, and our pattern piece measures 3 1/4 by 2 1/2. Now this piece is going to be on the front of our tag holder. The brown card is 2 1/2 by 2, and the patterned paper is 2 1/4 by 1 3/4. And then we're going to stick that on the front of our little pocket, and that'll hold our tags, and we're going to make 5 tags. Lovely. This brown piece of card measures 3 3/4 by 1 1/2, and the pattern paper measures 3 1/2 by 1 inch. Now I'm going to put on a piece of brown card from the front, and this is 3 3/4 squares. Now I need to put down the ribbon. So put your ribbon on next and then your die cut on over it. Again, I didn't do that. I was thinking of patterned paper, and it's only in hindsight I realized, oh, the ribbon is going to cut across my little fox's face. So it was easy enough fix. I just took another die cut image of the little fox and stuck it down on top of the ribbon. But if you do this now, then you won't have the problem when you get to it. That's the spine pieces that I have put on, and they measure 3 3/4 by 3/4 is for the brown card, and 3.5 by 1/2 for the patterned paper. Now I'm folding and burnishing all our card bases, and these measured 8 by 4 and they were scored at 4. So I'm putting on the matte and patterned paper layers. The matte layer is 3 3/4 squared, and the patterned paper is 3.5 squared. I have die cut out these green circles and white circles. Some of them are brown, but I've used some Stampin' Up punches. So the largest one is 2 1/4 inches, and then the white die cut circle is 2 inches. And that way we can put our sentiment on each of these. I've used some scraps from the pattern paper to embellish the cards, but now I'm just going to go ahead and assemble our card bases. And now we're moving on to our little tags, and I have 4 of these ready prepared, and this 5th one I'm putting some scrap pattern paper at the top of my white piece, and it measures 2 inches wide by about 4 inches long. And then once I put it through the punch, it becomes just a little bit shy of 4 inches. So we have our envelope scoreboard, and it's going to punch out and make our envelopes for us for the cards. As directed on the scoreboard, for a card of 4 by 4, we need a paper size of 7 inches squared. We put it in the punch guide at 3.5, and that'll give us an envelope that measures 4 3/8 by 4 3/8. So just follow the directions on your punch board if you have an envelope punch board. Once I've that done, I'm going to stick my envelope together, and then I've taken some of the scraps and I've punched out a 1-inch circle. I'm going to stick one on the back of the envelope where we're going to close the envelope once our card is inside. And I just like the look of that, having this little piece of pattern paper on the back, and I've put one on the front as well. Now I'm going to stamp the sentiments on each of my little notelets, and I have a sentiment in my stash and it says "just for you." So I figure the person then can write their message inside, whether it's a little get well note or a thank you note or whatever. I'm also going to stick the sentiment "just for you" on my tags as well, and these little tags can be used if, you know, I just think if you have a little gift, something small, you can put a little tag on it and have a matching card. I thought it'd be cute. And I have altogether, I've made 3 sets. I have 3 people in mind for each of these sets. So that's our cards done, that's our envelopes done, that's our tags done, that's our notelet holder done. I'm going to assemble everything together now and have a little look. And then I'm going to realize, oh, the ribbon is going to go in front of my little animal's face, my little fox. So like I said earlier, when I told you, do as I say, not as I do, I'm just going to take another little pop out die of the little fox that comes in the paper boutique kit, and I'm going to stick it down in front of the ribbon. There we go, all done. So the last and final thing I'm going to do, other than embellishing it with Wink of Stella and putting some glossy accents on the front of the notelet, is I like to finish off the ends of the ribbon. I take some silver mirror card and I use some hot glue. I have my Sizzix hot glue gun, and what I do is I just cut off a piece, I fold it in half. It's about a ½ inch, and I've scored it at a1/4 inch. Put some hot glue on it, fold it in half on top of the ribbon. Once I've done that, then I just trim off the ends of the mirror card, and you're left with this lovely little, it's like a metal embellishment at the bottom of the ribbon, but it's not, it's just some silver mirror card. So that's my version of a little notelet set holder with matching envelopes and tags. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you might consider clicking on the like button down below. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing, and if not, you might consider clicking on the subscribe button. There's a notification bell there too, and if you click on that bell, it'll notify you each time that I post a video. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching my video. I've taken some pictures of this little note set we've made together, as well as the one that inspired me, the note set that I showed you at the beginning using the Love from Lizzie papers. I've also got a third note set that I've taken some pictures of as well. I've really enjoyed making this, and I hope that you give it a go and that you have as much fun as I've had making it. Until next time, bye for now.